to the 2024 Women of the Year event. It is the most fabulous event that we do at the Brookline Commission for Women. It is the first full day of spring. It is Women's History Month. We are so excited to be back in person after a long hiatus of doing this on Zoom. And we are thrilled to have both our current honorees who are up here on the stage and our past honorees who are in the audience to talk to you about all the wonderful things that women are doing in Brookline. This room just feels like power. It's amazing. I would like to start with a land acknowledgement. And I would also ask before I start with that, if you can silence your cell phones, take all the pictures you want, but please put your cell phone on silent. So as we gather here today as a community, let us take a moment to acknowledge the history of this land we call Brookline. This is the unceded land of the Massachusetts people, whose traditions, language, and stewardship continue today through their lineal descendants, the Massachusetts tribe of Ponkapoag. Today we are living on land that was taken by force. By 1641, the colonists in Brookline had allocated to themselves almost all the land that had been inhabited by indigenous people. Land was not the only form of theft that occurred. Lives were also stolen. Historical records state that in 1675, during King Philip's War, 7 indigenous men were sold into slavery in the Caribbean by residents of the area that we now call Brookline. The 7 men represent part of the early slave trade. Slavery in Brookline continued and grew, but soon those enslaved were African or of African descent. By 1746, enslavers claimed ownership of over half of all Brookline land. We acknowledge the theft of the land, culture, and lives, and the ensuing enslavement of indigenous and African peoples that occurred here. These early policies set the stage for centuries of systemic racism. As we remember these atrocities, we must commit ourselves to address the ongoing inequities that are the result of our history of colonialism and racism. Although we as individuals were not perpetrators of these atrocities, we have benefited from these systems. Thus, we dedicate ourselves to addressing them today. Thank you. All right, I do have a special greeting for our honorees.
Hello, and thank you to the Brookline Commission for Women for organizing this event to honor the women who make our Commonwealth so great. Women's History Month is a wonderful opportunity for us to come together and to reflect on all of the hard work and contributions that we've seen from talented women in Massachusetts. This year's honorees have dedicated themselves to our public schools, and that is something close to my heart. I want to start by congratulating Linda Kirby, a lifetime Brookliner who is retiring this year after 37 years of service in our public schools. That is no easy job, but Linda has always approached her work with personal warmth and a real dedication to her colleagues, to fellow teachers, to parents, and most of all to students for over 3 decades. She has been, quote, the indispensable backbone of the Office of Student Services. So thank you, Linda, for all you've done for so many people. Another big congratulations goes to Mindy Paolo, the Director of English Language Education for the Public Schools of Brookline. As a daughter of immigrants and an English learner herself, Mindy has used her empathy and her understanding of the immigrant experience to provide support and guidance for the hundreds of students and families who come to Brookline from all around the world. We are so grateful for your leadership, Mindy. And last but not least, congratulations to Iris Adler, Ellen Clegg, Colette Phillips, Julie Rafferty, Irene Sedge, and Betsy Tarlin, the founders of Brookline.News, who, in record time, have launched a free weekly online news outlet. Thanks to you, the Brookline community is getting stronger, it's getting more connected, and we know how powerfully important that is in today's environment. So let me just say this. Strong women get it done. Persistent women get it done. and our Commonwealth and our country are better for it. Thank you again for inviting me to join you and for your wonderful accomplishments. Keep fighting the righteous fights.
It is our tradition to ask our last year's honorees to come and say a few words, and now I'm going to introduce one of our fabulous commissioners, Meenakshi, to introduce one of our fabulous honorees from last year.
Hi, I'm Meenakshi Garudia, as she said, one of the commissioners, and it's my great pleasure to introduce one of our honorees from last year, Ruth Ellen Fitch. Ruth Ellen was the first Medco director for Brookline. So can we get some snaps for that? She has also used her skills in the law and finance for multiple things around the town, like the Town Advisory Committee, Financial Planning Advisory Committee, and she has worked hard to bring healthcare and address inequities for women. So, Ruth, please come up and say something. And how do you feel the award changed anything for you last year?
I have to say, it was really fun getting the award last year. But this is even more fun, being here and accepting the award from last year in person. And it just feels really good. I was the first Medco coordinator under Bob Sperber, who was the superintendent of schools at that point in time. And we were really, I think we were really fortunate to have Bob as the superintendent and paying attention to the Medco program the way he did, and really giving me the ability and the authority to work on the program and to run the program for the real betterment of all students in Brookline. After I did that through, I think it was 1980, actually, and then, eons ago. And then I went to law school and really benefited from the diligence and the attention to detail that I needed in the Medco program to go to law school, graduate from law school, and then practice law for a number of years. So I'm a happy Brookliner. I think a lot that I've done has really been enabled by living in Brookline and having access to public transportation and close to all that's happening. So thank you.
Thank you, Ruth, and that is very inspiring to say the least, as is all of our honorees today. I have the pleasure of introducing Jane Pierce, one of our honorees from last year, and I'd like to welcome her to share some of her reflections here. We honored her last year because of her tireless work promoting compassionate and caring reproductive health care access and equity. In addition to co-founding a small army of volunteers who support Brookline Essential Women's Health Services, Jane is also the Managing Director of Reproductive Equity Now, a leader in New England and in the nation, especially in the light for the reproductive health and equity in the post-Roe era. So it's my honor to really welcome back Jane. And Jane.
Hello. I'm thrilled to be here in person this year to celebrate this amazing cohort of the 2024 Brookline Women of the Year. You're all doing amazing work every day to make Brookline and the world a better place, and I really look forward to hearing more about it from each of you. As I reflect on the year since the 2023 Brookline Women of the Year celebration, I wish I had better news. Instead, we've seen continued attacks on reproductive freedom. We now live in a country where 21 states have banned or severely restricted access to abortion. 21 states. While abortion remains legal here in Massachusetts, anti-abortion politicians have made clear their intention to ban abortion nationwide. Right now, extremists are using a tilted judiciary to attempt to restrict access to mifepristone, the first drug used in a medication abortion regimen. Currently, medication abortion accounts for 63% of all abortions nationwide. As I'm sure many of you know, the Supreme Court will hear a case involving mifepristone this Tuesday, which means that this June, yet again, we will be awaiting a Supreme Court decision that could impact abortion access in all 50 states and could reduce access to abortion even here in Massachusetts. Despite this sobering news, I remain hopeful. I'm hopeful because we know that people overwhelmingly support bodily autonomy, dignity in healthcare, and the ability to control our own futures. In every single election that has put abortion on the ballot since the Dobbs decision, Kansas, Kentucky, Vermont, Ohio, California, and Michigan, abortion has won. And it's going to keep winning in 2024 and beyond. I urge you all not to be complacent, even here in Massachusetts. We need everyone off the sidelines and in this fight with us to make sure we continue to break down barriers and expand access to care. We know the protection of Roe was never enough, especially for Black, brown, immigrant, LGBTQ, and young people. Here in Brookline, we're home to activists and advocates who never fail to show up to demand our rights. Many of the people in this room have joined me at the State House and called your legislators to advocate for reproductive freedom. This community never fails to show up for equitable access to reproductive freedom and health care, and I am so, so grateful for that. To the Brookline Commission for Women, thank you for continuing to recognize the importance of this work in this moment, and most importantly, congratulations to all of tonight's amazing honorees. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ruth and Jean, for coming and telling us about the impact that this award has had on you and the fight that you're still fighting as we move forward. And at this time, I'd like to introduce one of our fabulous commissioners, Rebecca Stone, who will be beginning to introduce our fabulous 2024 honorees.
Thank you again to our 2023 Women of the Year. Thank you for your inspiration and all of your work. Good evening, everyone. I'm Rebecca Stone. I'm delighted to introduce our first Woman of the Year for 2024, Linda Kirby. It is tough to follow Elizabeth Warren doing this. A daughter of Brookline, a graduate of the public schools, and a parent of kids in the schools, Linda has for 37 years devoted her professional life to supporting Brookline students. She first assisted in the old house system at BHS. Anybody in here remember the house system at BHS? Then she managed the special awards and scholarships. But for decades now, Linda has managed and been the heartbeat of the Office of Student Services. I myself have been a Linda Kirby fan since my days on the school committee, but as her ridiculously long list of nominations made clear, Linda has a lot of admirers. As one of her nominators explained, quote, "The Office of Student Services is the most student-facing and challenging department in the district, dealing with the complexities of special education, mental health, counseling, guidance, and nursing. Linda is the first person to deal with parents, families, students, and staff. She always has a listening ear, a compassionate heart, and the ability to get complex and demanding things done." Another nominator agrees, adding, "Linda is everyone's go-to. She always knows what to do and how to do it." Linda is also, we learned, really fussy about furniture. When we asked her for a fun fact we might share, Linda told us that if she can't find the exact piece of furniture she wants, she's going to try to make it herself. Now, Linda, your nominator said you knew what to do and how, but that is taking DIY to a whole new level. Anyway, in all seriousness, it would take far too long to quote everybody who wrote us about Linda Kirby, but there was a common refrain, people calling Linda indispensable, warm, helpful, excellent at her job, and always there to help in any way. And one last nominator summed it up absolutely perfectly when they wrote, quote, Recognizing Linda as one of the Brookline Women of the Year would be not just an acknowledgement of her professional achievements, but a celebration of a woman who embodies the very essence of community service and kindness. Linda Kirby sets an example for future generations, inspiring them to lead with compassion, dedication, and an unwavering commitment to what is right for the community. The Commission for Women honors Linda tonight for giving so much of herself to Brookline and for her lasting impact on so many who have benefited from her dedicated professionalism, warm friendship, and caring attention. Come on up here, Linda. So let's start. Yes. Okay. Here. You can put these aside. Okay, on your chair. I want to explain to people that all of our honorees are getting a very special commendation from the State Senate, courtesy of Senator Cindy Cream, which says, official citation, be it known that the Massachusetts Senate hereby extends its congratulations to, in this case, Linda Kirby, in recognition of your being selected as a 2024 Brookline Woman of the Year for your many contributions as an outstanding educator and advocate.
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to put that right here. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for those words. My goodness. Apparently, Elizabeth Warren is my new buddy now, so thank you to her, too. I want to start by congratulating Mindy, Iris, Ellen, Colette, Julie, Irene, and Betsy. I'm thrilled to be part of this event with you. When I received the call from Liz informing me of this honor, I hung up the phone and immediately thought, oh my God, I need to think of a way to get out of this. I can't do this. This isn't me. I don't want it. No. But then I thought about all those people that wrote in and nominated me. My wonderful friends and colleagues, both past and present. I'm leaving Brookline. I've been here for a long time. They wanted this for me. And I am so thrilled. I love you for it. And I'm going to embrace it. I'm Woman of the Year. Okay. I only have 3 minutes, so I'm going to talk really fast. As you can tell by what Rebecca said, it should be clear to you that I am a townie. I'm a townie through and through. I grew up here. I attended Lincoln School. I went to Brookline High School, and I've either lived here or worked here ever since. And I'm the very proud daughter of a townie. Both my parents grew up in Brookline. My dad was a civil engineer for the town of Brookline for over 36 years. My mom lived here for over 50 years. I still have 2 brothers that live here. And 37 years ago, I was working a retail job in Coolidge Corner, and of course, like most stores in Coolidge Corner, it went out of business. So I called my townie dad, and I said, Dad, I need a job. And the very next day, I started a part-time job at Brookline High School. Now, over the years, there seemed to be some reason or another to get involved in other things, like the Brookline Educational Secretaries Association. My work with that union began because they denied my request to work from home after I had my first child in 1996. Even though I was able to do it, it was the right thing to do, but they said no. And I said, well, geez, now I have to get involved with this union so this doesn't happen to anybody else. So I did. As soon as I could, I got a seat on the executive board, and 13 months later, I had my second child. And I did work from home when I brought him home. So other things that I got involved in were mainly a necessity for me. I lost my husband to cancer in 2012 and suddenly found myself wondering how I'm going to pay the bills. But I was lucky that I knew so many people in this town and that people knew me. And somebody said, you know what, there's a position that you could do. It's the test center coordinator for the college board. Kids taking their SATs and ACTs, and I did it, and I was able to pay my bills, so it worked out. I'm also lucky that I have the family that I do. I have a great family. My kids, my pride and joy, Mary Kate and Casey, So they were definitely having way too much McDonald's meals because I wasn't home to cook. I was working a lot, but they never complained when I missed their games. Where am I? And also knew at a very, very young age that I wanted to be like the queen. And by the queen, I mean my mother, because she's the most fabulous woman I know, and that's why she's the queen. I've spent the last 2 decades in Brookline working on the 5th floor town hall, managing the Office of Student Services and supporting the assistant, now called the deputy superintendent. And through the years, there were 10 of them. Not quite sure why the men didn't fare so well, but they did not in that position. But let me tell you, the women did. I worked with some incredibly talented and smart women like Karen Schmuckler, Casey No Miller, and Lisa O'Connell. I learned so much from these women, and they were an absolute joy to work with. So Brookline is home to me. It's where I am. Every Thanksgiving around noontime, my brother Rich and I start texting people to find out if Brookline could have possibly beat Newton in the Thanksgiving Day football game. And you know what? We're always going to do that. To the Brookline Commission for Women, you are the Women of the Year all day, every day, because you have the backs of all women and girls in Brookline. Thank you so much for all the work that you do. And listen, thanks to my dad for getting me that job 37 years ago. I think it worked out well for me. Thank you so, so much. Thank you. Take my gift.
Thank you and congratulations to Linda. I'm Julia Kazan, and it's my honor to introduce our second Woman of the Year, Mindy Paulo. A child of immigrants from Azores and an English language learner herself in elementary school, Mindy's empathy and understanding of the challenges of the immigrant experience has meant essential support and guidance for over 800 students. And their families each year will come to Brookline from all walks of life and from all over the world. As Director of English Language Education in Brookline, a job she took on after teaching English as a second language at Brookline High. Mindy has over 22 years of advocated for, taught, celebrated, befriended, and supported thousands of English learners and their families as they navigated the complicated journey of making Brookline their new home. Excuse me. My job tonight was made easy by what Mindy's nominators told us. Such warmth and with such warmth and enthusiasm. They wrote, quote, "On any given night, you'll see in one office light burning bright, and in the Clark Road in Brookline." It was Mindy's office. Her nominators continued, quote, "Mindy's compassion for our friends, families is evident in everything she does. You can find her working alongside a parent who is struggling to support their child on her every way to a children's home to check on their safety, well-being, strategizing with staff about new ways to ensure that all of Brookline's English learners feel supported and loved, seeking new funding sources for creative initiatives for families, buying balloons for the next ELE-sponsored community events, or collaborating with community partners. She always knows just how to connect and with who. Nominators also told us that Mindy is equally devoted and energetic as a professional colleague and mentor. They wrote, quotes, "Teachers decide to spend their career in Brookline schools in part because of Mindy's support, collegial friendship, and professionalism." Another said, quote, "At our department meeting, she listens carefully and problem solves us as a team. And is any student talks about students and always with warm thoughts. Another shared with that Mindy truly wants her staff to experience personal and professional success. She embodies what it means to lead with empathy, compassion, and a strong commitment to education, and she is always willing to take an extra task if she feels it might help enlighten the road on someone in her team. After reading those nominations, it was no surprise to her from Mindy herself that, as she puts it, she's adventure at heart, who went whitewater rafting on an ATV, a volcanic mountain, ziplining over rainforests and waterfalls, raffling all in one same week. It's amazing. Her nominations continued, quote, Mindy is an outstanding leader and a champion for Brookline's English learners, families, and a powerhouse of positivity and enthusiasm. In endorsing Mindy, I'm confident that her tireless efforts and compassionate approach makes her an exemplary candidate for the Women of the Year. So the Commission for Women, the Commission for Women wholeheartedly agrees. Congratulations, and I'm so happy to bring up Mindy Paulo to the podium.
Thank you, Julia, and thank you to the Brookline Commission. And a warm congratulations to my fellow award recipients, Linda and the Brookline Youth team. You all rock. Some 2,000 miles across the Atlantic, there once stood a little girl on an island where hydrangeas grow alongside the roads, vineyards are bountiful, and striking black lava permeates the landscape. She is one of 9 siblings who lived in a home with just 3 rooms that had no electricity or running water. This little girl never owned more than 3 outfits at a time, and one of those outfits was reserved for Sundays. Her feet were always bare. She never had any shoes. She attended a 1-room schoolhouse until grade 4, but she loved learning. She wanted to be a flight attendant when she grew up. Whenever she saw a plane fly above, she would often wonder, is that plane going to America? Despite their impoverished situation, this little girl had a dream to come to America. That dream came true when she turned 11 years old. She arrived in Boston wearing a dark blue skirt suit and her first pair of shoes, black velvet flats. She had no possessions other than the clothes on her back, but she had a heart and mind filled with hope, the hope for a better life, one of opportunity and of prosperity. Although she experienced many obstacles during her early years here in Massachusetts, especially linguistic and cultural barriers, she successfully navigated her way through life in a new country. Through it all, she held tightly to the promise of a better life. I stand before you today because of this little girl. This little girl is my mother. That's the story of resilience. That's what I fight for every day. This recognition is not only a tremendous honor for me personally, but also a testament to my mother's resiliency and strength, and the dedication of educators everywhere who work tirelessly to inspire and empower the next generation. As I reflect on the last 22 years, I recognize it has been a privilege to serve the Brookline community. But more so, I appreciate how this community has served me. During my time as the Director of English Language Education, more than 14,000 students, and yes, I counted, and their families have taught me about sacrifice, resilience, hope, and love. Their lived experience are some of the most beautiful and heroic stories. From the students who fled war-torn countries and those who came to seek world-class medical care, to the students whose parents were leading cutting-edge research to cure diabetes, and those whose parents played for the Boston Red Sox. We've had students share the stage with celebrities, break world records, develop apps that you're probably using, lobby for social justice, lead community organizations, and so much more. And they've done so with brilliance, with dignity, confidence, and humility. Like my mother, they are my heroes. They are my why. I have stood on the shoulders of giants and have been surrounded by an incredible village of educators, staff, families, and students. I share this award with every person who has been a part of my journey. While it would be impossible to name them all, there are some that I would especially like to thank. Mr. John Dempsey. He decided to hire me as a senior in college without licensure, without a degree, but somehow he said, she's gonna do it. So I loved kids, I loved challenging myself. I said, why not? There I was at the Den Devotion School teaching Spanish. Dr. Bill Lupini and Dr. Jennifer Fisher-Mueller, at 25 years old, they decided to hire me as the director of English language education. I'm not sure what I knew in terms of being an administrator, but somehow they saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. Ms. Agnes Almirola and Dr. Angela Allen, who provided me with unwavering support, guidance, encouragement, and mentorship, especially during my first few years being an administrator. You each gave me my start in Brookline, you believed in me, and you provided me with the support that I needed to be able to continue. I am forever grateful that you did this for me. Coming to work in Brookline has always been a joy, and that's because of the incredibly talented and amazing team of educators I have served and I continue to serve. To my ELE family, past and present, and there are many of you here today, thank you. Thank you. I am humbled by your collective action to nominate me. It has been a gift, truly a gift, working with and for each and every one of you. Your camaraderie has been invaluable, and I am truly fortunate to be a part of such a supportive and committed professional family. Yes, I call you my family because Brookline often gets a lot more time from me than my own family does. To the Brookline Commission for Women, I am sincerely grateful for your belief in my work. It is truly humbling to be recognized among such esteemed women who share a passion for making a difference in their communities. As we celebrate Women's History Month, I'm reminded of the countless women who have paved the way for progress and equality, breaking barriers and shattering stereotypes along the way. Their courage and perseverance inspire me to continue to push boundaries and strive for inclusive spaces where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. I am honored to now be among those you have recognized through the years. Thank you for being a beacon of hope in our community as you empower, advance, and celebrate our achievements and our contributions. And to my family, my parents, my husband, my sister, there are no words to express my thanks for your unwavering support, encouragement, and love. You have taught me to be someone's strength and to be someone's reason to believe. You have taught me to call out injustices and advocate for those who are often marginalized. You keep me grounded and remind me why I do this work. And to my daughters, Emerson and Breslin, and my godchild, Giselle, your innocence, your dreams, fuel my passion to ensure that every child receives a quality education with equitable access to succeed so that you can all live in a beautiful world. Every child deserves that. I accept this award with immense gratitude and appreciation. As an educator, I have the profound opportunity and responsibility to shape the minds and futures of the next generation.
It is a privilege and a joy to be a part of this noble profession, and I am deeply committed to making a positive difference in the lives of students and families, not just here in Brookline, but around the globe. Thank you, Brookline, for this incredible honor.
What are you doing? Thank you, Mindy. That was a great presentation. And congratulations again. I'm Carol Caro. It's a great pleasure to introduce our final honorees, a powerful group of 6 women who came together to do something extraordinary this past year. We're sorry they all couldn't be here, but we're happy that Ellen and Julie and Irene and Colette are here with us. I want to thank those who nominated this group for so beautifully describing what these women have done as they wrote to the commission. Local news is the bedrock of a connected community. In an age when local newspapers all over the country are dying, leaving people feeling isolated, uninformed, and less trusting of the press, Iris Adler, Ellen Klieg, Colette Phillips, Julie Rafferty, Irene Segi, and Betsy Tarlin reversed that trend right here in Brookline. And while we honor them tonight as a group, each of these women brought something from their successful careers in journalism, marketing, and business. Iris Adler is the former executive director for programming, podcasts, and special projects at WBUR, and was executive editor at the New England Cable News. She also, we learned, is besotted owner of a golden doodle who now rules her household. Ellen Klieg served as deputy managing editor and editor of the editorial page at the Boston Globe. She named her 25-year-old fishing boat the Rewrite. Colette Phillips founded her own thriving communication firm after coming from Antigua, where she hosted a weekly television show called Let's Talk, making her the Oprah Winfrey of Antigua. Julie Rafferty has been a dean for communications at Harvard and is a former journalist who scared an entire county board of supervisors enough that they adjourned their meeting to the men's room so that she could not hear the issue they were discussing. Irene Segi was editor of the Cambridge Chronicle and a longtime reporter and feature writer for the Globe. She also owned up to winning a rigged election for class president in 4th grade at the Brackford Elementary School when the teacher declared, "That's a girl this time." Betsy Tarlin, for 4 decades, been strengthening leadership and performance in nonprofit sector. And her family has lived in Brookline for even longer. Her children are the 4th generation of a family to call Coolidge Corner home. Following the demise of the Brookline tab, these talented women came together in the fall of 2022 to discuss the news desert in Brookline. They understood the importance of having a reliable, trusted local news source to build community and ensure a thriving democracy. And so they gave birth to Brookline.News, committing not just to cover the news, cover issues, people, programs, and institutions that affect our community, but also looking to train a new generation of journalists for other budding news operators in the area. Within 6 months, they raised seed money, developed the Brookline.News website, incorporated as a nonprofit, and hired a full-time editor, launching the free weekly online news outlet the following May. Behind the scenes, they continued to nurture their endeavor, volunteering time each week to advise, edit, and oversee the newsroom, ensuring that Brookline News delivers high-quality service for the public interest. Today, not even a year after its first issue, Brookline News goes across the Brookline community to more than 5,000 subscribers, and that number grows daily. None of this would have happened without the initiative, skill, an incredible commitment these 6 women brought to fighting back the ebb tide of local journalism. The Commission for Women celebrates their honors and brings them the quality local journalism back to Brookline. On behalf of the group, Colette Phillips and Julie Rafferty will have something to say.
Wow, thank you. I'm really honored, and I know I speak for all of us that we're really honored to be in the company of Mindy and Linda, and it's really brings a lot to me to be in such great company. I want to acknowledge that 2 of our co-founders, Iris Adler and Betsy Tarlin, couldn't be here tonight, but I want to acknowledge them as well as our co-winners today. I also want to acknowledge the men who were also key to the founding of Brookline.News, including Fred Perry, who's sitting there. I think actually Fred came up with the first check to pay for Brookline.News. Craig Haller, our IT dynamo, and Sam Mintz, the person who agreed to be our founding editor and first employee. And of course, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't also want to thank our families who have tolerated all the time and all the angst that have gone on in us doing this effort. And I'm glad that we're not all going to speak because we know you all want to be out of here before 8:30. So, you know, a lot of people think that we started Brookline.News because we missed the Brookline tab. That wasn't really quite it. We started it because we missed facts. We missed knowing what the heck was going on in Brookline. Brookline wasn't unique in terms of being short on facts. More than 2,500 daily newspapers have closed down in 15 years. That's 1/4 of all newspapers in this country. Now, 1 out of every 5 Americans lives in a news desert. For most of us, what we hear is the national news, and that's all we get. And what that national news does is it polarizes us, and it costs us money. As Nancy Gibbs, director of the Shorenstein Center on Media, Politics, and Public Policy at Harvard, wrote in the Washington Post recently, research shows that fewer knowledgeable local reporters means less accountability, leading to higher public spending, lower social cohesion, fewer people voting or running for office, less ticket splitting, and more polarization as people rely only on national news sources. Yup. The lack of local news outlets is slowly killing democracy, and it's increasing the cost of the average municipal bond issue by $650,000 a year, a recent study showed. No one is watching what's going on in town governments and city halls around this country anymore. Why? Simply because it's not profitable. So we started to work to create Brookline.News, sitting on Irene Segi's, and I said her name correctly, Irene Segi's back porch in the late summer of 2022, because we think local government can be more transparent and accountable. We want to build community, and we want to help train the next generation of journalists, which we are doing, working with organizations and universities around town, including Brandeis, BU, students from Boston College and Emerson University, all of whom are getting their first professional journalistic experiences working with us, because we want to make sure there is a pipeline of future journalists. We're also bringing together the growing number of nonprofit newsrooms that are springing up across Massachusetts and New England. We convened a meeting in January for more than 100 of people like us who are opening news outlets from 6 states to talk about ways that we might collaborate. But why do we ultimately do this? Not just for the facts, but because preserving journalism is preserving democracy. The fourth estate, journalism, is the only non-governmental body mentioned in the Constitution. The founding fathers knew how important journalism is. But as Brian McGrory, former editor of the Boston Globe, recently wrote, quote, "We are at a perilous moment in our civic life. Democracy is under threat. Quality information is in short supply. Misinformation and disinformation are all over your social media feeds. Lies have become the currency of a certain kind of office holder, not in Brookline, of course, at every level. But all is not lost, as Walter Robinson, who used to head the Globe Spotlight team, recently wrote in Commonwealth. And he said, much of the country has been fixated on whether we can trust the news we read and watch. What is more worrisome is that much of what we should see in the news is not being covered at all. Most everywhere, the watchdog has stopped barking. But the watchdog is awakening. Perhaps nowhere is this more evident than here in Massachusetts. We now have the will and the means to expand this pro-democracy movement. And that's really why this intrepid group of aging journalists and business people started Brookline Doc News, because we believe quality journalism at every level of society will help preserve our democracy. And so I want to thank the commission. I want to thank all of you for listening. And I want to turn it over to Colette, who will have a few words.
Thank you to the commission for acknowledging women. You know, there's a saying that women hold up half the sky, and that's true. Like the late Prime Minister of Britain, Margaret Thatcher, says, when you want something said, done, you ask a man. But when you want something said, you ask a man. But when you want something done, you ask a woman. So we know that women get the work done. And I am very proud to be a part of this wonderful group of women who basically decided that they wanted to create something. I think this is going to be the legacy of Ellen and Irene and Iris, Jill and Betsy, who really came together. I came to the table a little later, but I helped to give ideas and make my contributions from a marketing and communications perspective. I also know that it takes a village, as they say in the African proverb, not to just raise children, but to really do something really important. And so I want to say tonight, how many people in this room are subscribers to Brookline News?
All right.
Whoa, yes. And to the rest of you, what's up with that? Well, you can still subscribe. We like people in Newton too. So one of the ways that you can really make this village even bigger is to subscribe. But to be able to sustain this organization, because it is a nonprofit, I invite you, subscription is free. So I want to invite you to consider being a donor. I mean, you can be a donor of $100, you could be a donor of 1,000, 100,000, whatever you can give, we are open to that. And because we want to see Brookline News 100 years from now, when we are all gone, that Brookline News will still be thriving, and this would be the legacy of the founders. And I want to give a shout out to the men. We all have to remember, as women, we do need male allies. And Fred and Craig have been great allies to this wonderful group of women who have brought you Brookline News. So thank you to the commission. Congratulations to all the honorees tonight, and thank you for listening.
I just want to take another minute to applaud for our amazing 2024 honorees. We have all been inspired by what they've said, and our 2023 honorees also, we continue to be inspired by you. I want to thank in particular the rest of my commissioners. If you guys could stand up, because they have been all hands to get this done. Hadassah did the programs. Rebecca is our scribe. We have all worked together to make this happen, so thank you. We can't do it without each other. And I'd like to thank all of you for coming. It is so nice to have people in person applauding and not just putting up a little sign in their square or rectangle. I guess it's a rectangle. But I also want to remind everybody that alone, women are powerful, but together, we are majestic. So on that note, persist. Thank you all for coming. Woo!